Hello and welcome back to the Rise of the Sequels. This is the series where I attempt to debunk people's shitty arguments as to why the Star Wars sequels are bad, or dumb, or terrible, or childhood ruining, or social propaganda, and hopefully shed some much needed light on why the sequels aren't nearly as bad as everyone says they are. Now, I'm not saying the sequels are masterpieces, or even great for that matter, since they do have flaws, but they also have good qualities, and people always disregard them. I'm sick and tired of Star Wars fans being ridiculed and attacked by vicious sequel haters, all because of a couple of movies. It's childish and toxic. So before you call me a sequel fanboy, just remember that. Also, if you want to watch the last episode of this series, it'll be on the screen right now. Anyways, the video for today is by Worthaby, and his post-viewing rant on The Last Jedi. His channel will be down in the description, so check him out. He's actually quite amusing to watch. I always love me some road rage. I have nothing against the man. I go on angry rampages too most of the time. I just have a problem with his arguments in this video, because I don't think they're valid, which is why I'm responding to it. Now, this isn't a thought out video like most of the videos I respond to, so naturally his points aren't as well supported. However, to me that's a problem, especially since people are being hurt because of this movie. People deserve proper critiques of these movies, not angry fuckers who whine about them. However, he also mentions in the beginning of the video that it's just for lols, so he's actually acknowledging that he shouldn't be taken too seriously. So let's not give him too much shit. Also, I'm just gonna be responding to his actual arguments, not his anger-filled statements about the movie. Like this, for example.
And this movie is fucking dreadful.
This is just a statement, not an opinion. I personally don't think the movie's dreadful, but he hasn't made a proper argument here, so it's not fair for me to target this statement. You get me? Alright then, let's get into it.
I expected, before the movie started, I said to you, I says, this is going to be Return of the Jedi. And it's going to end with the Jedi, with the bad guys with the upper hand. Now, I was wrong. It was the Return of the Jedi. No, I said the Empire Strikes Back. But in fact, it wasn't. That was the Return of the Jedi.
I mean, it's not at all. The whole movie is a chase scene. That's not Return of the Jedi. Rey fails at saving Kylo, whereas in the Return of the Jedi, Luke was able to save his father. Return of the Jedi ends with the good guys winning, and the Empire being defeated, whereas The Last Jedi doesn't. At the end of the movie, the First Order is very much in control. The Resistance only survived with a couple of people. That's not winning to me. The hopeful tone and atmosphere at the end shouldn't be confused with the good guys winning. The endings are just not the same. Rey training with Luke is like nothing that happens in Return of the Jedi. And don't you say, oh well that means it's too similar to Empire, because it's not. Luke's training with Yoda is very different from Rey's training with Luke. Yoda doesn't have a character arc, but Luke does. Luke is trying to get strong enough to fight Vader while Rey builds a connection with Kylo. These movies just aren't the same, because even though some story beats might be similar and some situations might be similar, the emotions, purpose, and consequences are completely different. It's like saying that every master pupil training scene in any movie is just copied from another. It's bullshit. The Last Jedi is not Return of the Jedi.
Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, looked embarrassed. He looked embarrassed to be playing Luke Skywalker.
I actually think his performance was phenomenal. He didn't look embarrassed at all. And you know why? Because he's a professional actor. He may not have agreed with the direction Luke was being taken, but he has respect for Rian Johnson, and as an actor, it's his job to accurately bring the director's vision to life. And that's what he did. His performance in this movie is one of the best performances in the whole series. Definitely more complex than his performances in the originals.
Snoke, right? He is literally Emperor Palpatine. He even stole Palpatine's fucking lines. Did you notice that? When he had Rey there instead of Luke Skywalker.
Well, this aged well.
You know what? You've got Snoke saying to Kylo Ren all this stuff about, it was I who led your fleet to here. I planted this and led you. It's just, that's what the fucking Emperor says. That's what the Emperor says in Return of the fucking Jedi.
This man has just pointed out the brilliant foreshadowing of the sequels. Snoke was Palpatine the whole time. The evidence was there. It's actually hilarious to me that this point this man was using as a criticism of The Last Jedi with how Snoke is too reminiscent of the Emperor now discredits his argument. Of course, that isn't his fault, but it's just funny to me. I hadn't even noticed this properly before, but yeah, a lot of Snoke's lines were very similar to the Emperor's, which now that we know that Snoke actually was the Emperor, makes total sense. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this was the plan all along, because it wasn't. But him using their similarities as a point of argument is now invalid due to the rise of Skywalker.
Snoke is killing Rey, and Kylo Ren's looking and thinking, like Darth Vader did when the Emperor was killing Luke.
These are again not the same thing. In Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader kills the Emperor because he sees the error of his ways. He does it to protect his own son. Kylo does it for personal reasons. Yes, he cares about Rey, but he's trying to seize power for himself here. They may be similar circumstances, but everything else about the scenes is different.
And then guess what happens, guys? A fucking ship light speeds into the Star Destroyer that they're on, so the whole thing catches fire and is crashing, just like the Death Star was catching fire and smashing up when Darth Vader killed the Emperor.
Here's one I haven't heard before. The common criticism of the Lightspeed ramming is that it shatters the lore of Star Wars, which at least has merit to it, but this argument doesn't. In Return of the Jedi, Luke has to hurry his ass out of the Death Star because it's blowing up, whereas in The Last Jedi, they're not trying to get off the cruiser. That's your argument, and it's just not correct. They're not the same. It's really annoying that I have to debunk such nitpicky arguments because there are many more criticisms of this movie that actually have a lot of merit, but instead you choose to focus on shit that doesn't matter. I may be defending this movie, but it annoys me when people just can't criticize it properly. It's not a perfect movie. It has plenty of actual flaws which are being overlooked in place of minute details. I know this isn't a movie review, and rather just his immediate thoughts, but still, you can do better than that. Alright, one part I agree with him on is the resemblance between the Battle of Hoth and the Battle of Crait. Everything from the walkers to the trenches to the speeders is very similar. However, there are still differences, of course. I like the implementation of the guerrilla walkers. It shows evolution in the bad guys, that they've learned from their past mistakes. I actually really like that. Also, after the Millennium Falcon and Luke's arrival, the scene stops resembling Hoth completely. But yeah, this point is actually valid, but still nitpicky.
It's awful movie. There's nothing, I don't even have one good fucking thing to say about this movie. It is just rancid diarrhea.
Not one good thing to say about the movie. So literally every aspect of this movie is just garbage. Now, I'm sorry, but it's hard to take you seriously when you say something like this, because there's something good to say about any movie. I don't like Batman vs Superman. I think it's really bad. But the CGI looks good. Some of the Batman combat scenes are really fun. Just like how you can always find something bad to say about a movie, you can always find something good to say about a movie as well. This attitude just shows that you're not even giving the film a chance. That your rant is littered with bias and thoughtlessness. It basically shows that your argument shouldn't be taken too seriously.
We were just sitting there in the cinema. I bet this happens next. Then it happened. What was it? Fucking Luke Skywalker's going to walk through the door. Guess who walked through the door? Luke fucking Skywalker.
So just because you knew that Luke was going to show up, which pretty much everyone knew, the scene suddenly doesn't have an emotional impact? Well, in that case, Order 66 wasn't a heart-wrenching scene because we knew it was coming. Where Darth Vader turning good and killing Palpatine was a shit and unemotional scene because we could see it coming. I really don't get how you're using this as an argument. It's stupid. Then he rambles on some more about how Yoda training Luke and Luke training Rey are the same thing, even though Yoda does it to actually train Luke and just improve his skills, whereas Luke does it to prove to Rey that Jedi are corrosive and should end. Just because it's a training scene doesn't make it the same. However, he then mentions how both Luke and Rey found an evil cave in which they had to face their innermost demons, and yes, these scenes are very similar, good point. However, I don't really care. I like both of these scenes, they both do a lot for the story. But yes, they're similar, so good job. Also, he says that Luke's death got no reaction from the audience in the cinema. Which, first of all, yeah, of course, it's an emotional scene. Were people supposed to scream? Second of all, if people honestly weren't moved by Luke sitting in front of the twin suns, a hero again, then I feel sorry for them. I truly do. To me, it's one of the most emotionally charged scenes in all of Star Wars. It fills me with the same feelings from when I first watched Luke looking at the twin suns. It's him reflecting on his fucking life. It kills me that people didn't feel the emotions that I felt watching this movie. Because everyone deserves to feel hope and joy and sadness and inspiration, not just anger. I really wish more people would have seen this movie like I did. Liking something is a whole lot more enjoyable than hating it. In the end, it's often not your fault if you don't like something. You can't force yourself to like it. But I think too many people let their biases and hatred towards Disney and the sequels affect their viewing. Give this movie a second chance. Try to see it in a different light. I can't promise you'll enjoy it more, but it's worth a shot.
Leia gets sucked out of a Corvette in middle space in a fight with a Star Destroyer, right? Two fucking torpedoes hit the front of a cruiser. She's in the bridge of it, and it's a direct hit on the bridge, and all the crew gets sucked out into space, which instantly will kill you because you'll freeze to death instantly. There's no air to breathe or anything.
Leia pulling herself back towards the cruiser looks a bit comical. But come on, stranger things have happened in Star Wars than someone being able to temporarily survive in space. Heck, Obi-Wan and Anakin did it in Revenge of the Sith, when Grievous breaks the glass on the ship. All the oxygen in that room left in that instance, and it was probably hella cold too. But they didn't die, because it's fucking Star Wars. Real life physics don't apply here. Is there sound in space? No, there isn't. But there is in Star Wars. because it makes space battles more exciting. Are there wizards in space? No, but the Jedi are awesome. There's a reason Star Wars is not science fiction, it's fantasy, because from the beginning, George Lucas decided to focus on the fantasy elements more than the science behind it all. Someone surviving in space, someone who by the way has force powers, isn't unrealistic within the Star Wars universe.
The whole movie is a soulless, just cash grab on the back of a fantastic franchise. It is a soulless cash grab. That's what it is.
I agree that Disney bought Star Wars for the purpose of profiting from it, because why else would a big bucks company buy it? These movies are being made to make money, unlike the originals, which are George Lucas's lifelong vision. However, the people who actually make the movies aren't soulless. J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson are both massive Star Wars fans since childhood. Johnson has stated that he made the movie that would have excited himself most as a child. All the actors have nothing but love for the series. And you can see this in the interviews. All the set designers, the visual effects artists, the sound producers, all of them are giving their all to Star Wars. The only reason you think these movies are soulless is that you judged them before you even saw them. From the beginning, you hated The Last Jedi and what it stood for. And therefore, you didn't even try to enjoy it. Rian Johnson didn't ruin Star Wars for you.
You have done that yourself.
The reason a lot of the pundits said Star Wars was good, the reviewers said Star Wars was good, is because they've just left puberty. These people, they've never really, they don't know what they're talking about.
They're brought up on games like Call of Duty.
But they're brought up on movies like The Rock, San Andreas. You know, they're brought up on stuff like that. So when they see something like The Last Jedi, wow, what a great movie that was.
So the reason all the critics love The Last Jedi is because they're pubescent and just gotten out of puberty? How did you even come to this conclusion? Trust me, it's hard becoming a film reviewer when you're young. Not a lot of people will respect your opinion because you're not mature enough. There are plenty of film reviewers who love this movie that are your age or even older, not just young people. People didn't like this movie because they played Call of Duty. They like this movie because it has some interesting and fresh things to say. Luke's character arc is mature and deals with his inability to live up to his legendary status, and also demonstrates the importance of failure and mistakes. Rey being no one is purposeful, because it makes the Force special again. You don't need to be born with greatness to be great. Rey and Kylo's dynamic is so engaging, because it's a realistic look at two people who've never had such an intimate bond before, not knowing their place in the world, who are on opposite sides of the war. There may be a lot of negative things to say about this movie, but it also has some really thematic shit going on. This movie is very story-centered, and film critics often like that shit. It's not just because they're young, so shut up, boomer.
Is that the end, when Finn and the Chinese chick were about to get executed? All the stormtroopers and everything are all just
dead
standing in this one area.
Yeah. And then they all died.
They all died.
Except them two.
And then she's dragging him away, and then that Phasma walks in from another door when she was standing right next to him.
Yeah, exactly! With another load of stormtroopers.
I know,
She
where the hell did you come from?
Yeah.
Alright, yes, this is one of your first good and valid points. Because first of all, everyone dying except for Finn and Rose is stupid. And second, Phasma was right next to them and just came through the door afterwards instead of being dead, and fuck me, that wasn't very well choreographed. This is a valid point. Well done. And that was the video. I am truly amazed. My job has never been easier than this. There were like 2 valid arguments he used in this entire video, and even those points could never come close to ruining the movie. He didn't hit any of the big flaws of this movie, like Finn's character arc, Rose, the pacing. He didn't even address the points that everyone always bitches and moans about, like Luke's character arc, or Rey being no one, or Holdo being a bad character. I almost feel sad that I couldn't get to debunk any proper arguments. All he really said this entire video was just that the movie is the same as Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which is just not true. His arguments as to why this movie sucks and why people shouldn't even give it a try were weak and unsupported. This is the danger of making a video like this without a script, because it's so much easier for your arguments to have no meaning behind them. And it's even easier for fuckers like me to tear apart those garbage arguments. You're fun to listen to when you're ranting, but I'm sorry it had to be about such a sensitive and controversial topic, because your arguments just lack depth. A more thought out video would have helped you so much, but instead you put out this impulsive rant that told people not to go watch this movie, and to hate it instead. To not even give it a chance. It's a dangerous video. And even if it wasn't your purpose, some people probably took this too far and attacked the creators. It's unthoughtful and weakly argued videos like these that truly fueled this hate for the sequels. There are plenty of things to criticize in this movie, but there's a lot of good things about it. But it's so rare to find a YouTuber that actually realizes this and critiques it fairly without bias. And it's even rarer to find someone who actually has valid points of criticism. Anyone can provide their opinions about movies, but if you put yourself out there with unsupported arguments, don't be surprised when people don't agree with you. That's a lesson I've definitely had to learn. Listen, buddy, if you go into a movie expecting to hate it, chances are you're going to hate it. Trust me, it's a lot more enjoyable to open your mind just a little bit to try and see the good in a movie than it is to spitefully detest it, especially if it's a franchise like Star Wars that you're attached to and have grown to love. Anyways, that's it for this episode of The Rise of the Sequels. If you have any suggestions for videos you want me to cover next, then leave them down in the comments. If you think I'm a saint for speaking the truth, or a pile of shit for being a Disney fanboy, then tell me down in the comments as well. Let's try to start a civilized discussion. Join my Discord, by the way, the link will be down in the comments. Anyways, I hope you all leave a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you all next time. Stay safe and peace out.
お前はもう死んでいる。何